All right, today, the 2018 Grand Cherokee, we got to rotate the tires. More importantly, sadly, with only 35,000 miles, you can see right there, brakes are chirping like crazy. I'm at the wear mark. So I bought new pads, rotors. Went with AutoZone's Duralast Gold. Bought a good carbon metallic brake pad. So we'll be changing the pads and the rotors on the rear. We're going to rotate the tires and give this vehicle an oil change. Okay, front rotors look great. I still see all of a good 1/4 inch of pad. That's encouraging. And you can see the wear bar, the wear stem right here, the squealer is very far away from the rotor. So no issues at all, happily, with the front brakes. Oh yeah, those are bad. Looks good. Okay, a close-up. You can see in the rear, so they put the caliper towards the front. I've got to take this clip off right here, some type of anti-rattle clip, but yeah, solid rotor, but what a piece of shit. I mean, look at all the grooving, and you can see here's where all the squealing is coming from. That thing's riding metal on metal. So the Grand Cherokee killed the rear brakes at 35,000. They're dead. Kind of a shame in my opinion, but it is what it is. Lifetime warranty on the AutoZone pads, new rotors. We'll get this thing up and running. So I'll be undoing this clip. We'll go around the back and talk about a couple of the things that they do different here on the Grand Cherokee. And then I got to take this rubber O-ring off right here to get the rotor off. All right, going to start by taking a screwdriver. I got to put a little pressure on this thing. and that clamp just went flying. But we reuse that unless they gave me new ones. So that comes off really easy. Okay, look at the guides. See where my finger is? There are the guides. So they have a plastic cap right here and one on the bottom right down here. So you got to pop this plastic cap out and then for the rear caliper, take a 7mm Allen wrench and put it in there and loosen that up. So that's what I'm going to do next. And then I'll be able to drop the caliper out and set it up here in this sway bar out of the way. I'll look at the two caps. You can see there's some water in there. That's not good, but just little mud and water caps. So those get reused. We'll put them right there. All right, you can see I got the 7mm. I suppose if you had a nice 7mm socket, you could put that in there easily enough. But the one on the bottom, you have very little room because of this A-arm right here and this support on the bottom of this coil. So you definitely need a little Allen wrench for sure for that one. So that's where I'm at right now. All right, so after I undid those guides, the actual caliper pulls off, and this is always interesting when you see one shoe like that, almost new, and then the other shoe down to nothing, and you can see the orientation of the squealer right up towards the top. And there goes one of my pads, and we'll take this one out, and then we'll take that gasket off. There's a little gasket. We're going to carefully pull this little gasket off that holds the rotor in place, and we reuse that. And then we'll clean all of this up with a wire brush and get it gooped up. And see these two bolts right here, 18mm here and here. This is the caliper adapter bracket. We're going to remove those bolts and take this adapter bracket off so we can get the rotor off. Look at that shit. There's nothing there. There's hardly any pad there at all. So I don't know if things weren't set up right to begin with, but when you have one pad completely worn down, clearly all the braking was done on this one side. It'll be interesting to take the adapter bracket off and look at this. But 35,000 miles, disgraceful. This little O-ring here. I got a little tool here, a little pick tool, but you can see that the tip of it's kind of broken. But I want to get behind here and pry this little O-ring. You can see this O-ring. I might have to get a tweaker screwdriver, but that O-ring right there needs to come off before the rotor's going to come off. Okay, see the rubber O-ring? I got a little screwdriver behind that, and then that just comes off. We'll clean that up and we'll reuse that. All right, 18mm for the caliper adapter bracket bolts. One up here at the top, and then there's one right down here at the bottom. So Those are going to come off before I can get the rotor off. We'll get a wire brush and we'll clean this. And I bought a nice, some of that silicone high temp brake grease. I bought a tube of that. So you can see here, pretty self-explanatory. There's some corrosion, but bolts are coming off nice. Here we go. And then the adapter bracket is right there. You'll notice, which I kind of like, is you'll notice there's no crazy clips that you put in. I'll just clean that all up with a wire brush, and the pads just slide in those grooves at the bottom here and at the top. It's kind of neat. All right, a little persuasion with the 3-pound hammer to get this rotor off. Not surprised. All right, a look at the e-brakes. Plenty of shoe. Definitely, you can see where they rub on the inside of the hat, the inside of the rotor right there. A little difficulty pulling the rotor off, but we'll get in there and clean this all up with some brake cleaner. And this is a piece of junk now, so happily all my e-brake stuff looks really nice. All right in there with the ends of the shoes right, I'm going to take a wire brush and clean that out, and that'll all get lubricated when we put this back on after we put the new rotor on. All right, I've used the small packets. I decided to get a nice tube of this brake lubricant. Reduces noise and wear, so we'll be gooping up the caliper adapter bracket right there, as well as the guides that go into the caliper and the piston itself, as well as the other side that the pad goes against. So that's where we are right now. So far, so good. Okay, you get a new rotor. It's got oil on it. I'll use the brake cleaner and clean this oil off right here, both inside the hat and around this side. And then we'll get ready to mount that rotor over the e-brake assembly. Okay, the rotor went on nice and easy over the brake shoes. Everything's all cleaned up. So now we're going to reuse that little rubber gasket right here. We'll clean this up, wipe it down a little bit, and then that just goes over the hub. And you can see a slight little groove right there. Helps to ensure that the rotor stays on the hub. Then we'll put the caliper adapter bracket on. I'll also take some brake cleaner and wash the outside of the rotor right now, get all that shipping oil off of it. Okay, the rubber gasket, you can see it, it's on there. Now we just get some of that shipping oil off of this rotor as well. Nice. Okay, you can see the adapter bracket in. I just basically lined it up nicely, and I got the two 18mm head bolts started. So I'll just get those in by hand, and then I'll give them a strong torque. They weren't crazy. If these are comparable to my JK, and they are the same size head bolts, I believe it was like 55 foot-pounds on these, but we'll get these snugged up really good. Okay, I just took the new pad. You can see it's lubed up, slid that in nicely, torqued those two 18mm head bolts for the adapter bracket. Now the pad that goes against the piston, you can see I've compressed the piston all the way in, and that pad has like 3 little prongs that go into that hole. So I'm going to set that pad right up inside there. Then we'll bring the assembly around and put it onto the adapter bracket. Also, you'll notice the guides, see one right here? I've got them kind of slid back out so they don't interfere when I bring the caliper around and put it to the adapter. Okay, slid the caliper assembly around. I got that first guide bolt started. Now I'm gonna work on that second one. You can see it right there. I got to get that started, and then I can put that anti-rattle clip on here, and we'll be in really good shape. Yeah, you can see that this is kind of a pain in the neck because you don't really have any room to get any kind of socket in there or anything. So I'm just doing it by hand. You can see you can only turn it so far, but happily it is started. So I'll get this tightened up, and then we'll work on that anti-rattle clip. Okay, this clip was kind of a joke. You just, I mean, look at it. I think there'll be more tension on it once I put my foot on the brake. Right now, the piston on the other side was pushed all the way in, so you have plenty of room to put the caliper on with the thickness of the new pads and the new rotor. But that's definitely seated on there right. You can see the arrow. I remember when I took this off, this curve was here. So it looks pretty good. Got these little caps to put on. I went really like a strong hand tight on those Allen bolts in the back. Now you can just see you got these little plastic cap. It's got kind of like a knurl on it, and that just covers and protects those guides. So we'll put that on there, and there they are. They're both in. The gasket's on. Everything is nice here. So this side's actually done. I'll put the tire on because I'm also rotating the tires. We'll torque those to, I torque my aluminum rims to anywhere from 95 to 110 foot-pounds. We'll torque those after under the weight of the vehicle. I'll look at the front. Once again, the rotor looks nice. Definitely a 1/4 of an inch before the squealer starts hitting. So I'm pleased with the performance or the durability of the front pads and rotors. Clearly on the Grand Cherokee, I guess the rear does most of the work, but you can see I got the oil pan under there. There's a 1/2 inch drain plug bolt. I'm gonna undo that and get the oil changed while we're rotating the tires and working on these brakes. We'll start draining the oil. Okay, I got the oil draining. 6 quarts. This is the 3.6 Pentastar. See the drain plug there. 6 quarts. Surprisingly, on this 2018 3.6, the spec calls for 0W20. I run the Pennzoil, which is really what the manual suggests. It has some special rating, yada yada, full synthetic. But I've run Mobil 1 before too. But anyway, we went with the Pennzoil. We got a Mopar filter going in, M0349. Same exact oil filter that goes into my 3.6 on my JK. And we'll be getting up into there with the 25 or 24 millimeter socket and pulling that oil filter out. All right, you can see there, SAE 0W-20. And just like on the JK, you got a 24 millimeter plastic nut here. Basically, it's a housing. It's the top of the oil filter. And the oil filter will pull. It's an oil filter cooler assembly is what it is. And that filter will pull right out. So that's what I'm going to do right now, 24 millimeter. There it is. There's the Mopar number, M0-349. Platinum, synthetic, Pennzoil, 0W20, full synthetic. You can see the filter comes with a new O-ring. That O-ring goes right there. There's the new cartridge, it just snaps in. I love this system. Just tip it over and thread it back in. And you just go gently snug. You do not want to break this oil filter cooler assembly. Big job. There were a lot of flaws with them breaking in the year 2014. But you just want to go snug on that. All right, there's the old gasket. I just use a little pick tool like that and just thread the new gasket all the way down there. So there we go. We'll put this back in now. Again, you want to be real careful with this. I'm using my left hand. I'll put the phone down, but just going to thread this in till she just kind of gets snug. Nothing crazy. All right, don't forget to put that drain plug in and then snug that up, clean up all that oil with a rag, and then we'll get rid of all the dirty oil. All right, very nice. Okay, on the passenger side, you see some similar things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 5/16 of pad on the inside. And then on the outside, look at that thing. It's all rusted in there. I got to bang on that. Got to goop the guides up. But yeah, seeing a lot of corrosion over here. Same thing. We'll have to lubricate this all up, get this piece of shit rotor off, and clean this all up with a wire brush. Look at that. Freaking pathetic, huh? Junk. A lot of rust on this one. All right, next will be the 18mm head bolts on the back for the adapter bracket. Then the O-ring. Beat this thing with a sledgehammer and get this rotor off. All right, hit that up really good with the wire brush. We'll get it lubricated nice and get it prepped. All right, after a lot of beating with the sledgehammer, this rotor came off. We'll clean this all up, same as before. Pads, shoes look nice that run inside the hat, so we'll get this all cleaned up. All right, putting in my oil now. All right, put the plastic shroud on here, 6 quarts of oil. After we'll start it up, the dipstick's over on that side right there. We'll check it out. Meanwhile, now I can get back to working on my passenger rear. So I'm going to take some brake cleaner, clean off this new rotor, get that rotor on there, the rubber gasket, and the adapter bracket for starters. So that's where I'm at. It's going very well. New rotor is on, gasket is on. Now we'll put the adapter bracket in, use the brake cleaner, get all that shipping oil that it comes with, get these things cleaned up nice, and we're gonna be in really good shape here. All right, just working this 7mm Allen and tightening up these guide bolts. Lubricated them all, got the new pads on the rotors. It's going really well. Nice material. Okay, I just got to put the little plastic plugs in here. Got the anti-rattle clip on. Weather's getting ready to turn bad, so I got to get these tires on and get this rig off jack stands and take it for a run. All right, torqued these wheels to 110 foot-pounds. Rotated the tires, oil change. We're going to start it up, then check the oil. Then we're going to go seat the rear brake pads. Going to drive them for a little while and seat them. Get the pistons to come out and tighten all of that up, but nice new rotors, nice new pads, everything's lubricated. About an hour and a half, start to finish. Rotate the tires, oil change, rear pads and rotors. Nice, so I just drove the Grand Cherokee, tried to seat these new brake pads on the rotor. It's a process where you go from like 30 to 15, from 40 to 15, 45 to 15 miles an hour. And you get it nice and hot, and what happens is everything heats up and you end up getting brake material into the rotor or onto the rotor, and that really helps with the braking. I thought the brakes were fabulous. A lot of nice pedal, super quiet, super smooth. Very pleased.